Hi, I'm Corporal Vuko. I'm a disabled war veteran. I am a forgotten warrior from a forgotten war. And yeah, that really is a real thing. Ask anyone who fought in Desert Storm that, came down with the Gulf illness years and years later. But I'm not going to talk about that. I want to talk about 19 years ago today. Maybe yesterday. It's time zone stuff. So 19 years ago today, the war, the first Gulf War, Desert Storm, where we liberated Kuwait. It was the third day of the war, and the LAVs had we set aside a defensive position where the LAVs were all sitting in a circle in probably about 20, 25 LAVs in a circle, and we're sitting in the middle of these oil fields with the oil burning all over us, and there's just like this really thick oil smoke fog all over the place. Kind of think of if you ever been in California and you've like driven through some really thick fog. Imagine fog like that, except it's not water vapor. It's burnt oil with that smell of charred flesh in the air. That's kind of what we're sitting in the middle of. And so while we're sitting there, during the daytime, you could barely make out the sun through the thick smoke, and so day and night were almost the same because at night, the light from all the oil wells on fire were lighting up everything around us. At one point, we're sitting there, and I was sitting on top of my vehicle, and all of a sudden I hear machine gun fire. Bang, 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 bing, 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 bing. Just rip right through our circle of LEVs. And I sat there instinctively. I lock and load, and I look over, and all the staff and COs started heading towards the direction where the gunfire was coming from. And I looked over, and it was like the submarine decided to start cleaning his M240. I think it's M243. His squad automatic weapon that was mounted on the LAVs, and luckily no one was hurt. But and this is important because like when you get trained in the military, they always train you make sure your weapons are unloaded before you start cleaning them. and and yeah, sure enough, he decided it's time to clean my weapon, and he left a whole chain of ammo fed into it, and he nearly took off the head of his vehicle commander. Um, and there's just one thing I always thought about. Like when I think back at that, it's like we get trained like always make sure your weapon's unloaded when you're cleaning your weapons, right? But the other thing is also, just as a backup plan, when you're cleaning your weapons, make sure they're, especially if you're sitting in a defensive circle, make sure your weapon that you're cleaning is pointed away from everybody else, because man, that woke everybody up. And then, and this is 19 years ago today. And we were getting ready to, I think the first units were already coming up on a side of Kuwait International Airport. I think it's Alpha Company from LAI was already headed up there. Our units were sitting behind this defensive circle, and across the horizon, a call came out that there were three vehicles rapidly approaching us. And different people were hopping on, at the various levels. You could communicate within your company, your vehicle, within your battalion, and then battalion can communicate with, pride, the command units, and all that kind of stuff. And no one understood who these vehicles were coming towards us were. It was a sedan and like two trucks, and they were like a pickup truck with sort of like a canvas top back, and they're getting dangerously close to our position where we had no idea who they were. We knew the war was winding down. We knew we were getting ready to take the airport, and this is like it looked like this is like their one last Iraqi like revenge plot. Like maybe they're going to come in and with a couple vehicles full of explosives and try and blow us up. So then I was on watch in my vehicle. I got my vehicle awake. I hopped down. Vehicle commander yelled at me. He's like, head out with the scouts. Go halfway. Report back with whatever's going on. So the scouts were lined up in front of the vehicles, and the vehicles, the LEVs, the vehicles that were approaching us were coming at a very high rate, but they had their headlights on. We're like, that's not really like a recon stealth kind of thing. But we had no idea who they were. So my vehicle commander calls down to me. He says, Vuko, go out with the scouts, stay at the halfway point, report back what's going on. They're taking out the lead vehicle. So then I'm sitting there. I see the other scouts starting to move forward, and I hear thud, thud, thud. One of the Red 2 was an LEV 25. Took 3 shots at the lead vehicle with high explosive 25 millimeter rounds and all 3 nailed the vehicle and stopped the convoy. The initial scouts that went out, they were out there with interpreters, and everybody we sort of like ran out in like a wedge, and then I was just sort of like in the back part of the wedge waiting to bring the word back to the light armored infantry battalions. 3rd and 1st were mixed at that point. As we were out there, I saw like there were a whole bunch of people with their interpreters, and and they sent like one Marine running back to another Marine, and that Marine ran back to another Marine, and that Marine ran back to me and told me what was going on. And as soon as I heard what was going on, I sat there, and I just started running back to our defensive circle. I went running up to commanding officer's vehicle as fast as I can. As I'm running, I was mindful that I still had a round chambered, so I looked down, make sure my safety was on. I'm just running as fast as I can. And as soon as I got within earshot, I just started yelling, "Cease fire! Cease fire! They're friendlies! They're Kuwaiti freedom fighters!" And all of us just kind of stopped, and it was like, we had no idea there was such thing as Kuwaiti freedom fighters, even though, made total sense afterwards. And everyone just kind of sat there and like put our eyes down, and it was like, son of a bitch. Everybody in a light armored infantry battalion knew what it was like to lose someone close to you. Most people, they lost close friends. We were the frontline unit, You lost people close to you, people you respected. Some people you just met for a couple weeks and they're no longer here. And all of a sudden, the word came back that we killed the people that we were there to save. And that was just such a very hard moment for everybody there. When I came back and I was yelling, Marines have no problem like looking someone else dead in the eyes at any given time. Just were raised with confidence. And at that moment, when I reported back that they were Kuwaiti freedom fighters, everybody just put their head down and were like, son of a bitch. We all knew what it was like to lose our brothers in combat. And yeah, that one hurt us just a little tougher because we were there to save these people. Anyways, I hope I know it wasn't widely reported at all, but I hope the people of Kuwait remember the loss of their Kuwaiti freedom fighter, because it really hurt us, losing this man that we were there to save, We were there to free the people of Kuwait from the socialist dictator Saddam Hussein, just taking over their neighboring country. And we were only there for a few months, and they were fighting the entire time. So, yeah, that really hit home. As unfortunately, I was the last kill of the light armored infantry battalion. And anyways, I hope the people of Kuwait, if you never heard the story, I hope you share it, and I hope you remember the regret that we felt. I mean, we knew what it was like to lose our own, and for some reason, killing this Kuwaiti resistance fighter who we were there to save, it hurt us more than it did losing our own. It really did. And we all remember him, and I hope the people of Kuwait remember him too. We didn't want to kill, someone we're there to save in the waning hours of the war. It just wasn't right. Anyways, to the people of Kuwait, I'm glad we were able to liberate your country and, give you back your constitutional monarchy. And I truly hope you never forget the loss of those brave men that were there fighting the entire time to keep Kuwait free from Saddam's socialist rule. Yeah. And Marines in general, we tend to, all veterans, I think, we tend to, romanticize war a little bit, where we use phrases that were used by the Vikings, like "until Valhalla." And what until Valhalla means is just simply until we meet again in Valhalla. And we imagine there's like in the back of heaven, it's where warriors gather, and we tell stories of what we did while we served. And to that Kuwaiti freedom fighter out there and his family, I hope you never forget him. I know the Marines of the Light Armored Infantry Battalion will never forget. And to the Kuwaiti freedom fighter, until we meet again in Valhalla, my brother. Until Valhalla. Godspeed.